नमस्कार विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, मागील लेक्चरमध्ये आपण युनिट 1 इंट्रोडक्शन टू अॅनाटॉमी अँड फिजिओलॉजीमध्ये काही सम पोर्शन रिमेन्स सेल अँड सेल डिव्हिजन आणि टिश्यूचा पोर्शन राहिला. तर आपण या लेक्चरमध्ये बघूयात. सेल तर तुम्हाला माहीतच आहे, आपण 5वी पासून शिकत आलेलो चॅप्टर आहे ना. जनरल सेल म्हणजे काय, सेलमध्ये कोणते ऑर्गॅनिल्स आहेत, डायग्राम वगैरे तुम्ही बघितलीच आहे ना. सेलसोबत आधीपासूनच ओळख आहे. चला तर आपण बघूया सेल. व्हॉट इज सेल? Cell is defined as cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life or living thing is known as a cell. A cell has a protoplasm suspended with the plenty of organelles and surrounded by plasma membrane. Each cell can be broadly divided into principal unit, that's a plasma membrane or cell membrane. Animal cell मध्ये plasma membrane आणि cell membrane असतो. Cytoplasm and its cytoskeleton and organelles means cell organelles and cell inclusions and nucleus. सर्वप्रथम बघा, जे प्लाझ्मा मेम्ब्रेनचं स्ट्रक्चर बघा. जे आउटर मेम्ब्रेन असते आपण त्याला सेल मेम्ब्रेन किंवा प्लाझ्मा मेम्ब्रेन. इज अ बायलेअर फॉस्फोलिपिड मेम्ब्रेन. कशी आहे? सँडविच लाईक स्ट्रक्चर आहे. याचं दिसतंय डायग्राम मध्ये तुम्हाला. त्याच्यामध्ये प्रोटीन्स आहेत आणि ही बायलेअर आउटर मेम्ब्रेन आणि इनर मेम्ब्रेन. ही आउटर मेम्ब्रेन आणि ही इनर मेम्ब्रेन. ठीक आहे. सर्वप्रथम आपण प्लाझ्मा मेम्ब्रेन बघू. प्लाझ्मा मेम्ब्रेन, सेल मेम्ब्रेन और प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन. प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन और प्लाज्मालेमा और सेल मेम्ब्रेन इज अ सिलेक्टिवली परमेएबल. कशी आहे? सिलेक्टिवली परमेएबल आहे. आउटर कवरिंग ऑफ सेल and is flexible and responsive and dynamic in nature. This membrane isolate the individual cells from a neighbors. आता दुसरे दोन सेल जवळ जर असलं तर हे दोन प्रत्येक सेल सेपरेट कशी झालेली या परमेबल मेम्ब्रेनमुळे, सेल मेम्ब्रेनमुळे दोन जे नायबर्स सेल आहेत हे कसे झाले? इंडिव्हिज्युअल. Cell membrane composed of double layer of phospholipid and protein surround outside of the all cells, control what enters or leave the cell and living layer. In that phospholipids हेड कंटेन ग्लायसरल अँड हायड्रोफिलिक. म्हणजे कसे आहेत? हेड्स बघा डायग्राम मध्ये तुम्हाला दिसतं. याचे जे बायलेअर फॉस्फोलिपिड हे जे दिसतात हे आहेत हेड आणि हे टेल आहेत ना. काय? हेड आणि टेल. हेड कसे आहेत? हायड्रोफिलिक म्हणजे वॉटर लविंगली. हायड्रोफिलिक, वॉटर लविंग और अट्रॅक्ट वॉटर. टेल्स आर मेड अप ऑफ फॅटी ऍसिड. टेल्स आर मेड अप ऑफ फॅटी ऍसिड अँड हायड्रोफोबिक. कसे आहेत? वॉटर हेटिंग और वॉटर रिपेलेंट आहेत. Makeup of bilayer where tails point inward toward each other. Can move laterally to allow small molecules, that's the oxygen, CO2 and water to enter. Then cell membrane proteins. Protein help move large molecule or aid in the cell recognition. Then peripheral proteins are attached on the surface, inner or outers. Integral proteins are embedded completely through the membranes. नेक्स्ट सेल ऑर्गॅनल इज द न्यूक्लियस. न्यूक्लियस तुम्ही डायग्राम मध्ये बघू शकता. न्यूक्लियस. एव्हरी सेल इन द बॉडी हॅज अ न्यूक्लियस विथ द एक्सेप्शन ऑफ मॅच्युअर इरिथ्रोसाइट. ज्या आपल्या लाल रक्तपेशी जे असतात, रेड ब्लड सेल किंवा आरबीसी जे म्हणतो, याच्यामध्ये न्यूक्लियस आहे का? नाही. एक्सेप्शन्स आहे मॅच्युअर इरिथ्रोसाइट्स. बाकी सर्व सेलमध्ये न्यूक्लियस प्रेझेंट असतो एक्सेप्ट द erythrocytes. The nucleus contains the body's genetic material which direct the activities of the cell. The nucleus आतमध्ये काय असतं? genetic material. This build is form a DNA and protein called as a histones coiled together forming a fine network of threads called as a chromatin. Chromatin resembles tiny strings of bead. During cell division, the chromatin replicates and become more tightly coiled forming a chromosomes. DNA. What is DNA? DNA, this is a double strand of nucleotide arranged in a spiral helix which resembles twisted ladder. तुम्ही 12th मध्ये शिकलेलेच आहात ना. Chromosomes are cluster of DNA molecule कन्सिस्टिंग ऑफ फंक्शनल सब युनिट इज कॉल्ड एज अ जीन्स. आता तुम्ही बायोलॉजीमध्ये जे जेनेटिक्स जो चॅप्टर होता याच्यामध्ये 12मध्ये तुम्ही इन डिटेलमध्ये शिकले आहात. द न्यूक्लियोटाइड्स contain the sugar deoxyribose, then phosphate groups, and one of four bases, thus adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. A is one of chain is pair with the thymine in the other and guanine with the cytosine. Then mitochondria. मायटोकॉन्ड्रियाबद्दल युनिव्हर्सिटीमध्ये 5 मार्क्ससाठी स्ट्रक्चर अँड फंक्शन ऑफ मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया खूप वेळेस विचारलेला आहे युनिव्हर्सिटी एक्झाममध्ये. तर बघूया मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया कसा आहे, डबल मेम्ब्रेन आहे. कसा आहे, डबल मेम्ब्रेन बाउंड ऑर्गेनली. सॉसेज शेप कसा आहे, सॉसेज शेप SAUSG आहे ना. Mitochondria are sausage-shaped structure in the cytoplasm, sometimes described as the powerhouse of the cell. आपण काय म्हणतो याला, it's sometimes described as the powerhouse of the cell because it produce energy. They are involved in aerobic respiration, the process by which chemical energy is made available in the cell. This is in the form of ATP, which release energy when the cell break it down. आता डायग्राम बघू शकता तुम्ही. मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया इज द पॉवर ऑफ द सेल आहे ना. एक आउटर मेम्ब्रेन आहे, नंतर इनर मेम्ब्रेन आहे. इनर मेम्ब्रेन मध्ये बघा जे फोल्डिंग दिसतात याला काय म्हणतो आपण, क्रिस्टी, CRISTE, क्रिस्टी आहे ना, क्रिस्टी जंक्शन्स. देन याच्यामध्ये DNA असतं, ATP सिंथेसिस असतं, रायबोझोम असतात, ग्रॅन्युअल्स असतात. देन फंक्शन ऑफ मायटोकॉन्ड्रिया. The most important function of mitochondria is to produce energy through the process of oxidative phosphorylation. It is also involved in the following process. काय मेन फंक्शन आहे, प्रोडक्शन ऑफ एनर्जी इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ATP, adenosine triphosphate, through the process of oxidative phosphorylation. Also, it regulate the metabolic activity of cells. Then promote the growth of new cell and cell multiplication. Then helps in detoxifying ammonia in the liver cells. Also, mitochondria plays an important role in a apoptosis or program cell death. तर बघा apoptosis म्हणजे आणि प्रोग्राम सेल डेथ म्हणजे सेलची पूर्ण वाढ होऊन जेवढे जेवढे दिवस ती सर्व्हाइव्ह करते आणि जे शेवट प्रोग्राम सेल डेथ म्हणजे पूर्णपणे वाढ होऊन त्याची डेथ होते, त्या प्रोसेसला आपण apoptosis किंवा प्रोग्राम सेल डेथ असे म्हणतो. Responsible for building certain parts of bloods and various hormones like testosterone and estrogen. Also helps in maintaining an adequate concentration of calcium ion in the compartment of cells. It is also involved in various cellular activities like cellular differentiation, cell signaling, cell senescence, and controlling the cell cycle, and also in a cell growth. Next organ is a ribosome. काय, रायबोझोम्स कुठं दिसतात हे, दॅट आर प्रेझेंट ऑन द रफ एंडोप्लाझमिक रेटिक्युलम. रायझोम दे आर टायनी ग्रॅन्युल्स. कसे, टायनी ग्रॅन्युल्स कंपोज ऑफ RNA अँड प्रोटीन. कशापासून कंपोज झाले, RNA आणि प्रोटीन. दे सिंथेसाइज प्रोटीन्स फ्रॉम अमिनो ॲसिड युझिंग RNA ॲज अ टेम्पलेट. RNA ॲज अ टेम्पलेट यूज करून रायबोझोम सिंथेसाइज करतात प्रोटीनला फ्रॉम द अमिनो ॲसिड पासून. Next is the endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum is divided into rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum is a series of interconnecting membranous canals in the cytoplasm. There are two types, smooth and rough endoplasmic reticulum. In a smooth endoplasmic reticulum, synthesis of lipid and steroid hormone and is also associated with the detoxification of some drugs. And in a rough endoplasmic reticulum is situated or studied with a ribosomes. म्हणजे रफ एंडोप्लाझमिक रेटिक्युलमवर काय असतात, रायबोझोम्स आर प्रेझेंट. स्मूथ वरती असतात का, नाही. देअर these आर द साइट्स ऑफ सिंथेसिस ऑफ प्रोटीन दॅट आर एक्सपोर्टेड. तर बघा स्मूथ एंडोप्लाझमिक रेटिक्युलम काय करतं, सिंथेसिस ऑफ लिपिड अँड स्टेरॉइड हार्मोन. आणि रफ काय करतं, सिंथेसिस ऑफ प्रोटीन्स आहे ना. स्मूथमध्ये लिपिड आणि स्टेरॉइड हार्मोन सिंथेसिस होतं आणि रफमध्ये सिंथेसिस ऑफ प्रोटीन्स दॅट आर एक्सपोर्टेड ऑर एक्सट्रुडेड फ्रॉम सेल्स. एक्झाम्पल्स दॅट इज enzymes and hormones that pass out of their parent cell to be used by other cell in the body. Golgi apparatus. Next is the Golgi apparatus. Diagram मध्ये बघा स्ट्रक्चर कसं आहे Golgi apparatusचं. Is the also cell organelle. Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus consists of stacks of closely folded flattened membranous sac. कशापासून consist आहे? Stacks of closely folded flattened membranous sacs. It is present in all cells but is larger in those that synthesize and export proteins. The protein move from endoplasmic reticulum to the Golgi apparatus. Proteins काय करतात? Move from endoplasmic reticulum to the Golgi apparatus where they are packed. तिथे काय होतात? They are packed into the membrane bound vesicle. कशामध्ये पॅक होतात? Into the membrane bound vesicle. Is called as a, त्यालाच आपण काय म्हणतो? Secretory granules. काय म्हणतो त्याला? Secretory granules. The vesicles are stored and when needed move to the plasma membrane through which the proteins are exported. Next organelle is the lysosome. Lysosome आपण बघितलेलं आहे बघा, ऐकलेलं सुद्धा आहे. Lysosome are the suicidal bag of the cell. काय? Suicidal bag of the cell. Lysosomes are one type of secretory vesicles formed by the Golgi apparatus. काय? Lysosome are the one type of secretory vesicles formed by the Golgi apparatus. They contain a variety of enzymes involved in a breakdown fragments of organelles and large molecule, example RNA, DNA, carbohydrates, proteins inside the cell into smaller particles that are either recycled or extruded from the cell as a waste material. Lysosomes in white blood cells, WBC मधले lysosome contain enzyme that digest foreign material such as microbes. Next microfilament आणि microtubules. बघा डायग्राम मध्ये दिसतात. These are the microfilament and these are the microtubules. Difference between microtubules आणि microfilament. These are non-contrail. कसं आहे तर microtubule डायग्राम मध्ये बघा microtubules कुठे आहेत? Microtubules आणि हे microfilaments. Microtubules are, these are non-contractile. तर microfilaments काय? These are contractile. Microtubule contain 13 protofilaments. These do not possess longitudinal subunit in a microfilaments. Then in microtubules they are hollow tubules. In microfilament are solid structure. कसे आहेत? Solid structure. Then microtubules are form of alpha and beta tubulin proteins. कोणते? अल्फा आणि बीटा ट्यूबुलिन प्रोटीन्स पासून मायक्रोट्युब्युल्स फॉर्म होतात. मायक्रोफिलामेंट्स आर मेनली मेड अप ऑफ ॲक्टिन. मायक्रोफिलामेंट कशापासून मेड अप आहेत? ॲक्टिन पासून. The diameter of microtubule is a 25 nanometer. Then in microfilament the diameter of microfilament is a 5 to 6 nanometer. तर मायक्रोट्युब्युल्सच्या याच्यामध्ये आणि मायक्रोफिलामेंटच्या डायमीटर मध्ये सुद्धा डिफरन्स आहे. मायक्रोट्युब्युल्सचं डायमीटर आहे 25 नॅनोमीटर आणि मायक्रोफिलामेंटचं आहे 5 to 6 नॅनोमीटर. थोडा आपण एक छोटासा व्हिडिओ बघूया, लक्षपूर्वक बघा.
Here is a cell, the basic unit of all living tissue. In most human cells, there is a structure called a nucleus. The nucleus contains the genome. In humans, the genome is split between 23 pairs of chromosomes. Each chromosome contains a long strand of DNA, tightly packaged around proteins called histones. Within the DNA are sections called genes. These genes contain the instructions for making proteins. When a gene is switched on, an enzyme called RNA polymerase attaches to the start of the gene. It moves along the DNA, making a strand of messenger RNA out of free bases in the nucleus. The DNA code determines the order in which the free bases are added to the messenger RNA. This process is called transcription. Before the messenger RNA can be used as a template for the production of proteins, it needs to be processed. This involves removing and adding sections of RNA. The messenger RNA then moves out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm. Protein factories in the cytoplasm, called ribosomes, bind to the messenger RNA. The ribosome reads the code in the messenger RNA to produce a chain made up of amino acids. There are 20 different types of amino acid. Transfer RNA molecules carry the amino acids to the ribosome. The messenger RNA is read 3 bases at a time. As each triplet is read, a transfer RNA delivers the corresponding amino acid. This is added to a growing chain of amino acids. Once the last amino acid has been added, the chain folds into a complex 3D shape to form the protein.
नेक्स्ट आपण बघूया सेल सायकल और सेल डिव्हिजन. फर्स्टली आपण बघू सेल डिव्हिजन काय असतं. सेल डिव्हिजन डेफिनेशन बघा. सेल डिव्हिजन इज अ प्रोसेस by which a parent cell divide into 2 or more daughter cell. Cell division usually occur as a part of a larger cell cycle. In a cell division, the cell that is dividing is called as the parent cell. जी सेल डिवाइड होते त्या सेलला आपण पॅरेंट सेल म्हणतो. The parent cell divide into 2 daughter cells and the process then repeats in what is called the cell cycle. त्याला आपण सेल सायकल असे म्हणतो. म्हणजे जी सेल डिवाइड होते त्या सेलला पॅरेंट सेल म्हणतात आणि त्या पॅरेंट सेलपासून ज्या 2 सेल फॉर्म होतात त्याला आपण डॉटर सेल म्हणतो. आणि हे जे प्रोसेस जे आहे, जे सायक्लिक इव्हेंट जे आहे, याला आपण सेल सायकल असे म्हणतो. तर व्हाय डू सेल डिवाइड? सेल का डिवाइड होते? सेल्स डिवाइड बेसिकली फॉर 3 रिझन. फॉर द ग्रोथ अँड डेव्हलपमेंट ऑफ अवर बॉडी, टू रिपेअर द डेड अँड डॅमेज टिश्यूज, and for reproduction. म्हणजे जे मिओसिस जे डिव्हिजन होतं, सेल डिव्हिजन फॉर रिप्रोडक्शन. द सेल्स ऑफ हायर ऑर्गॅनिझम डिवाइड बाय 2 प्रोसेस. एक मायटोसिस डिव्हिजन असतो आणि दुसरा मिओसिस. मायटोसिस बघा, बिगिनिंग विथ द फर्टिलाइज एग और झायगोट. सेल डिव्हिजन इज अन ऑनगोइंग प्रोसेस ॲज द फेटस डेव्हलप्स इन द मदर युटरस. Its cell multiply and grow into all the specialties that provide the sum total of the body's as a physiological function. मायटोसिस काय, जेव्हा जन्म झाल्यानंतर तो म्हणजे जे झायगोट असतात आफ्टर फर्टिलायझेशन, झायगोट पासून जे सेल डिव्हिजन मल्टिप्लिकेशन जे होतं हे मायटोसिस डिव्हिजन होतं. आणि बिफोर जे गॅमेट फॉर्मेशन होतं, जे स्पर्म सेल जे गॅमेट असतात, जे मदर आणि फादरकडून जे गॅमेट्स येतात, हे मिओसिस डिव्हिजननं फॉर्म होतात. Mitosis, the process that cells use to make exact replicas of themselves, is a mitosis. Mitosis is observed in almost all the body cells, including eye, skin, hair, and muscles, etc. Next, meiosis. In this type of cell division, sperm or egg cells are produced with a haploid set. कसे आहेत? हॅप्लॉइड म्हणजे हाफ नंबर ऑफ क्रोमोझोम. हॅप्लॉइड सेट ऑफ chromosomes instead of identical daughter cells as in a mitosis. मायटोसिस मध्ये काय होतं, जेनेटिक मटेरियल तेवढंच काय डिप्लॉइडच राहायचं. जे पॅरेंट सेलचं जे राहायचं ते ऑफस्प्रिंगचं राहतं. मिओसिस मध्ये काय होतं, हॅप्लॉइड होतं, हाफ नंबर होतं. दिस इज द प्रोसेस ऑफ सेल डिव्हिजन दॅट ऑकर इन द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ रिप्रोडक्टिव्ह सेल्स, दॅट्स द गॅमेट, ova and the spermatozoa. The ova grow to maturity in the ovaries of the female and the spermatozoa in the testes of the male. In meiosis, 4 daughter cells are formed after the 2 divisions. Next बघा cell cycle. Cell cycle is a series of events that a cell pass through from the time until a reproduce its replica. During the cell cycle, cell grows, DNA is replicated, mitotic cell division produce daughter cell identical to the parent. There are two primary phases in the cell cycle. First is the interphase. This phase was this phase was throughout the represent the resting stage between subsequent cell division. This phase was thought to represent the resting stage between subsequent cell division, but new research has shown that it is a very active phase. Then next phase is the M phase. First interphase and M phase. Cell cycle divided into interphase and M phase. हा जो फेज असतो G0, G1, S आणि G2 हा असतो इंटरफेज म्हणजे एक प्रिपरेटरी फेज. काय असतो इथं प्रिपेअर होते. आणि सेल डिव्हिजन किंवा याला एम फेज म्हणतो म्हणजे मायटोसिस आणि मिओटिक डिव्हिजन फेज असतो. In M phase, mitosis phase, this is where the actual cell division occurs. These are two key steps in this phase, namely cytokinesis and karyokinesis. नंतर काय होतं याच्यामध्ये सायटोकायनेसिस म्हणजे सायटोप्लाझमचं डिव्हिजन होतं आणि कॅरियोकायनेसिस म्हणजे न्यूक्लियसचं डिव्हिजन होतं. इंटरफेसमध्ये बघा, इंटरफेस कंप्राइज 3 phases. G0 phase त्यालाच आपण रेस्टिंग फेज म्हणतो. द सेल नायदर डिव्हाइड ऑर नॉट प्रिपेअर इटसेल्फ फॉर द डिव्हिजन. जे इंटरफेसमध्ये G0 फेज असतो त्याला आपण रेस्टिंग फेज. नंतर बघा इथे G1 प्री सिंथेटिक फेज किंवा गॅप 1. G1 phase, the cells is metabolically active and grows continuously during this phase. Then next is a S phase किंवा synthesis phase म्हणतो. In that the DNA replication or synthesis occur during this stage. Then G2 phase or gap 2 phase, in that protein synthesis happen in this phase. तर तेव्हा जे क्वेश्चन स्टेज किंवा G0 स्टेज म्हणतो, द सेल दॅट डू नॉट अंडरगो फर्दर डिव्हिजन. जर त्या G0 फेजमध्ये काय होतं, सेल डज नॉट अंडरगो फर्दर डिव्हिजन, एक्झिट द G1 फेज अँड एंटर अँड इन अ इनॲक्टिव्ह स्टेज. धिस स्टेज इज नोन ॲज द क्वेश्चन स्टेज किंवा G0 ऑफ द सेल सायकल. इंटरफेसमध्ये बघा, it is actually a non-dividing state. In this state, cell grows in size, organelles are replicated, replication of DNA, synthesis of protein associated with DNA, then synthesis of protein associated with the mitosis. तर याच्यामध्ये बघा, मायटोसिस सेल division of somatic cells in a eukaryotic organism is called as a mitosis. In this process, a single cell divides into two identical daughter cells. Daughter cells have same set of chromosome as does the parent cell. हे असतं mitosis cell division. Then mitosis, it has a 4 subphase: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and followed by the cytokinesis. Prophase मध्ये काय होतं, in prophase 3 major events take place. Some condense and spindle fibers form. Spindle fiber are specialized microtubules radiating out from centrioles. Then chromosomes are captured by the spindle. Then metaphase, in this phase chromosomes align along at the equatorial of the cell with one कायनेटोकोर फेसिंग इच पोल्स. काय होतात, क्रोमोझोम इक्वेटोरियल प्लेनमध्ये अरेंज होतात मेटाफेजमध्ये. बघा दिसत असेल तुम्हाला इकडे इंटरफेज, नंतर मायटोसिसमध्ये प्रोफेज, स्पिंडल ॲस्टर, नंतर मेटाफेजमध्ये क्रोमोझोम कसे झाले आहेत, अलाइन ॲट अ इक्वेटोरियल प्लेन. देन इन अ ॲनाफेज, इथं क्रोमोझोम नंबर बघा किती आहे, 2. In anaphase stage, the sister chromatids separates from each other. Spindle fiber attached to the kinetochores shorten and pull the chromatids toward the opposite poles. कुठं होतं हे, anaphase मध्ये. The cells appear almost oval in a shape as it starts becoming a longer. Then last is the telophase. Telophase, in this phase, the spindle fiber between the pole disintegrate. The nuclear envelope start reforming around both the group of chromosomes at the poles. Chromosomes revert to their extended state by absorbing water from the cytoplasm. There appears a constriction in the cytoplasm between the two groups of dividing chromosome. Then cytokinesis completes the enclosing of each daughter nucleus into a separate cell. This activity happens in the telophase. Then सायटोकायनेसिस मध्ये फरो कंटिन्यूस टू डीपन आणि टू डॉटर सेल्स आर फॉर्म. ते होतं सायटोकायनेसिस मध्ये. एम फेज झाल्यानंतर सायटोकायनेसिस होते, म्हणजे सायटोप्लाझमचं डिव्हिजन होतं फरो मेथडनं आणि टू डॉटर सेल्स आर फॉर्म. नेक्स्ट इज अ मिओसिस डिव्हिजन, किंवा त्याला आपण रिडक्शन सेल डिव्हिजन सुद्धा असे म्हणतो. मिओसिस और रिडक्शन सेल डिव्हिजन. मिओसिस इज अ प्रोसेस वेअर अ सिंगल सेल डिवाइड ट्वाइस to produce 4 daughter cell containing half the original amount of genetic information. म्हणजे याच्यामध्ये काय होतं, हाफ नंबर ऑफ क्रोमोझोम्स आपल्या डॉटर सेल्समध्ये येतील. दिस सेल्स आर कॉल्ड ॲज अ गॅमेट सेल्स और गॅमेट स्पर्म इन अ मेल्स अँड एग इन अ फिमेल्स. तर बघा याच्यामध्ये हॅप्लॉइड क्रोमोझोम इट कंटेन्स ओनली वन कॉपी ऑफ क्रोमोझोम. इट डिझाईन ॲज अ स्मॉल एन. कसे डिझाईन केलं जातं याला, एन हॅप्लॉइड एन न डिझाईन केलं होतं, आणि डिप्लॉइड असलं तर 2n. मिओसिस मध्ये याच्यामध्ये बघा, द गॅमेट फॉर्मेशन इन मिओसिस देर आर 2 न्यूक्लियर डिव्हिजन. किती होतात, 2 न्यूक्लियर डिव्हिजन, मिओसिस 1 अँड मिओसिस 2. मिओसिस इज अ रिडक्शन. मिओसिस 1 मध्ये बघा, मिओसिस इज अ रिडक्शन डिव्हिजन, द सायलेंट फीचर ऑफ meiotic division that make it different from mitosis are as follow. It occur in 2 stages of the nuclear and cellular division. As meiosis first and meiosis second, DNA replication occurs, however, only once. It involves the pairing of homologous chromosomes and recombination between them. 4 haploid daughter cells are produced at the end, unlike 2 diploid daughter cells in a mitosis. तर meiosis मध्ये काय होतात, 4 haploid daughter cell प्रोड्यूस होतात, आणि meiosis मध्ये किती होतात, 2 diploid daughter cells. तसंच मिओसिस फर्स्ट आणि मिओसिस 2 मध्ये प्रोफेज 1, मेटाफेज 1, एनाफेज 1, टेलोफेज 1, तसंच इकडं प्रोफेज 2, मेटाफेज 2, एनाफेज 2 आणि टेलोफेज 2 ह्या प्रोसेस मिओसिस डिव्हिजनमध्ये होतात. प्रोफेज 1 इज अ लॉंगर दॅन द मायटोटिक प्रोफेज अँड इज फर्दर सबडिवाइडेड इंटू 5 सबस्टेजेस. दे आर द लिप्टोटेनी, झायगोटिनी, पॅचेटिनी, डिप्लोटिनी आणि डायकायनेसिस. मेटाफेजमध्ये सेम मायटोसिसमध्ये जसे क्रोमोझोम इक्वेटोरियल प्लेनला अलाइन होतात, तसेच मिओसिसच्या मेटाफेज सुद्धा होतात. थोडा आपण एक याच्यावरती व्हिडिओ बघूयात.
The purpose of the cell cycle is to reproduce cells. So, one cell can copy itself to become 2 cells. Those 2 daughter cells are identical to the original parent cell, exactly the same. Each one can complete its own cell cycle to make copies of itself until you end up with lots of cells. This is needed for growth, and is how you went from being one single lonely cell to being made of trillions of cells. That's how you grew. We also need a cell cycle to replace worn-out cells and heal tissue damage. So it is muy importante. Alright, so the cell cycle has 3 main parts: interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. Let's begin with interphase. Interphase is the part of the cell cycle where the cell is not dividing. Think of this as normal cell life. The cell is doing normal cell things, growth, metabolism, and so on. Also, during interphase, you should notice that the nucleus is intact and that the cell's DNA is all stringy, like spaghetti. This stringy, uncoiled form of DNA is known as chromatin. There is one really important thing that the cell does during interphase that is needed in order to do mitosis, which is the next step. The cell replicates or copies its chromatin. Notice that each piece of chromatin is now paired up with its copy. We call these paired up copies sister chromatids. So, now the cell has copies of its DNA. This is critical so that the cell can divide up its DNA into two cells and still have them be identical to the original parent cell. One final thing I want to make clear. Interphase is not part of mitosis. It happens before mitosis and is especially important because it is where the cell's DNA is copied. Now, let's begin mitosis, the process of dividing the cell's DNA into two identical daughter cells. Mitosis has four phases: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, which you can remember as PMAT. The first phase of mitosis is called prophase. During prophase, there are a few key events. 1. Chromatin coils and gets nicely packed to form chromosomes. So instead of being like a tangled mass of spaghetti, your DNA is tightly packaged and easier to organize and move around. 2. The nucleus goes away. It literally disintegrates. Why? Because it's in the way. The chromosomes are trapped inside the nucleus and can't get moved where they need to go unless the cell gets rid of it. So it does. 3. The spindle apparatus, a bunch of protein tubes that are used to move your chromosomes around, also forms. It makes sense that all these things would happen during prophase, the beginning of mitosis, because they are the things that need to happen at the beginning. It's like moving to a new house. There are some things you do at the beginning of the process. Just like you need to pack up your stuff before moving to a new house, the cell needs to pack up its chromatin into easily movable chromosomes. And just like you need to leave your house to move out of it, the chromosomes need to get out of the nucleus, so it vanishes. Your whole house doesn't exactly vanish, but you get the idea. Finally, if you're going to move, it makes sense to have your moving truck ready to go. The moving truck is like the spindle apparatus. Again, it makes sense to have this at the beginning of mitosis. So, that's prophase. The rest of the phases will go much quicker. Metaphase is the next phase. In metaphase, the chromosomes line up down the middle of the cell. Think M for middle. The chromosomes line up down the middle. This makes the chromosomes easily organized so that they can be evenly divided in half in our next phase, anaphase. During anaphase, the sister chromatids are separated from one another and pulled to opposite ends of the cell. Telophase is basically the reverse of prophase. Each newly formed daughter cell is going to start its new life in interphase. So we have to undo all the mitosis stuff that helped the cell to divide. Back to normal cell life. So, the chromosomes uncoil to form chromatin, the nucleus returns, and the spindle apparatus breaks down because it is no longer needed. Usually at the same time, the cell completely divides in half, a process called cytokinesis. The result is two genetically identical daughter cells. That is the entire cell cycle: interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe, and check out the other.
नेक्स्ट टॉपिक आपण टिश्यू बघू. टिश्यू काय, आपण स्ट्रक्चरल ऑर्गनायझेशन ऑफ ह्युमन बॉडीमध्ये आपण ऑलरेडी बघितलं आहे टिश्यू म्हणजे काय ना, तरी परत एकदा बघू. टिश्यू इज अ डिफाईन्ड ॲज अ टिश्यू इज अ ग्रुप ऑफ सेल दॅट वर्क टुगेदर टू परफॉर्म अ स्पेसिफिक फंक्शन इन द बॉडी. टिश्यू काय इज अ ग्रुप ऑफ सेल दॅट वर्क टुगेदर टू परफॉर्म अ स्पेसिफिक फंक्शन इन द बॉडी. Tissue is an assembly of similar cells and their extracellular matrix from the same embryonic origin that together carry out specific function. The tissues of the body consist of large number of cells and they are classified according to their size, shape and function of these cells. These are four main types of tissue, each of which have a subdivision. They are epithelial tissue or epithelium tissue, then connective tissue, muscular tissue and nervous tissue. First we see epithelial tissue. This is a group of tissue is found covering the body and lining the cavities and tubes. कुठं कुठं found होतं covering the body and lining cavities and tubes. It is also found in a glands. It is also found in a glands. The structure of epithelium is closely related to its function, which includes protection of underlying structures from, for example, dehydration, chemical and mechanical damage, the secretion and absorption. टिश्यू हा इम्पॉर्टंट आहे. एक्झाममध्ये खूप वेळा विचारलेला आहे. टिश्यूवरती एक तरी क्वेश्चन दरवर्षीला युनिव्हर्सिटी एक्झाममध्ये येतोच. Classification of epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue is classified into simple epithelial tissue and compound epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue is classified into simple and compound epithelial tissue. Simple epithelial tissue is classified into squamous epithelial tissue, cuboidal epithelial tissue, ciliated, columnar and pseudostratified. In compound epithelial tissue is divided into two types: stratified compound epithelial tissue, transitional compound epithelial tissue. Stratified further divided into stratified squamous and stratified cubical. Then stratified squamous is further divided into keratinized and non-keratinized. ट्री डायग्रामॅटिक जे डायग्रामॅटिक प्रेझेंटेशन ना तुम्हाला टिश्यूचा टाईप लवकर लक्षात बसतील. अशी एक ट्री डायग्राम ही जर काढून ठेवली तर याच्यावर नंतर आपल्याला कंटेंट इलॅबोरेट करता येतं. सुरुवातीला मेन काही एवढेच टाईपच आठवत नाहीत एक्झाममध्ये. तर या अशा प्रकारचे डायग्राम लक्षात ठेवून या डायग्रामद्वारे काढून याच्यानंतर आपण याचं कंटेंट इलॅबोरेट करू शकतो. ही सोपी पद्धत आहे. Epithelial tissue may be simple. Simple means a single layer of cell. Simple असले तर कसं a single layer of cell. Stratified several layer of cells. Types of epithelium. Simple बघा. याच्यात बघा हे असते बेसमेंट मेम्ब्रेन. काय असते बेसमेंट मेम्ब्रेन. सिंपल क्युबॉइडल is cuboidal shape. Simple columnar shape. Then transitional, stratified cuboidal आणि pseudostratified columnars. आता बघा सिंपल इपिथेलियम. Simple epithelium consists of a single layer of identical cells and is divided into four types. It is usually found on a absorptive or secretory surface. कुठं फाउंड होतो absorptive आणि secretory surfaces, where the single layer enhances this process and not usually on the surfaces subject to stress. The types are named according to the shape of the cells, which differ according to their function. The more active the tissue, the taller are the cell. काय the more active the tissue, the taller are the cells. Then squamous or pavement epithelium. काय squamous or pavement. आता बघा डायग्राम मध्ये तुम्ही डायग्राम मध्ये स्कॅमस. आता कोणतं बघत आहे आपण इपिथेलियल टिश्यू मधला सिंपल इपिथेलियम मधला टाइप स्क्वॅमस. Squamous or pavement epithelium. This is composed of single layer of flattened cell. कसा कंपोज झाला single layer of flattened cell. The cells fit closely together like a flat stones, forming a thin and very smooth membrane. Diffusion takes place freely through this thin, smooth, inactive lining of the following structures. तर बघा कुठं कुठं आहे हे हार्ट ब्लड वेसल, lymph vessels, alveoli of the lungs. Heart, blood vessel, lymph vessels, alveoli of the lungs, where it is also known as the endothelium. It is also known as the endothelium. Then cuboidal or cubical epithelium. This consists of cube-shaped cells fitting closely together, lying on a basement membrane. It is from the tubules of the kidney. कुठे आहे tubules of the kidney and is found in some glands. Cuboidal epithelium is actively involved in a secretion. कुठे इन्व्हॉल्व असतो actively involved in a secretion, absorption and excretion. And next is the columnar epithelium. This is formed by a single layer of cell, rectangular in shape, on a basement membrane. It is found lining the organ of the alimentary tract and consists of a mixture of cells. Some absorb the product of digestion and other secrete mucus. That's the columnar epithelium. Mucus is a thick, sticky substance secreted by modified columnar cells. That cells are the goblet cells. कोणत्या? Goblet cells. GOBLET, goblet cells. Then ciliated epithelium. This is formed by the columnar cells, each of which has a many fine hair-like process. काय? Many fine hair-like process is called as a cilia. The cilia consist of microtubules inside the plasma membrane that extend from the free border, that's the luminal border of the columnar cells. The wave-like movement of many cilia propels the contents of the tubes which they line in a one direction only. Ciliated epithelium is found lining the uterine tubes. कुठं आहे हे? It found lining the uterine tubes and most of the respiratory passages. In the uterine tubes, the cilia propel over toward the uterus. काय करतं? In the uterine tubes, cilia propel the ovum toward the uterus. Then stratified epithelia. Stratified epithelia consists of several layers of cells of the various shapes. The superficial layer grow up from below. Basement membrane are usually absent. का असतं याच्यामध्ये? Basement membrane are usually absent. Stratified squamous epithelium. This is composed of a number of layers of cells of the different shapes representing newly formed and mature cells. In the deepest layer, the cells are mainly columnar and they grow toward the surface. They become flattened and are then shed. When non-keratinized stratified epithelium, this is found on wet surfaces that may be subjected to the wear and tear but are protected from drying. Example, the conjunctiva of the eyes, the lining of the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, and the vagina. Then keratinized stratified epithelium, this is found on a dry surface that are subjected to wear and tear. Examples are skin, hairs, nails. काय असतं याच्यामध्ये? केराटिनाइज स्ट्रॅटिफाइड epithelial tissue. The surface layer consists of dead epithelial cells to which the protein keratin has been added. This form a tough, relatively waterproof protective layer that prevent drying of the underlying live cells. Stratified squamous epithelium, keratin आणि नॉन केराटिनाइजची डायग्राम आहे, बघून घ्या स्ट्रक्चर कसं असतं. केराटिनाइज आहे आणि हे नॉन केराटिनाइज आहे. Then transitional epithelium. This is composed of several layers of pear-shaped cells and is found lining the urinary bladder. It allows for stretching as the bladder fills. The next type is a connective tissue. Connective tissue is the most abundant tissue in the body. The cells forming the connective tissue are more widely separated from each other than those forming the epithelium and intracellular substances. Matrix, त्याला काय म्हणतो? Intracellular matrix is present in a considerably larger amount. Major function of connective tissue are binding and structural support, protection, transport, and insulation. Blood is also a fluid connective tissue. कसा आहे? Blood हा type of connective tissue आहे, fluid connective tissue. The connective tissue, dense connective tissue, adipose connective tissue, areolar connective tissue, compact bone आणि blood. Loose areolar connective tissue. This is the most generalized of all connective tissue. The matrix is described as a semi-solid. Matrix असतं semi-solid with many fibroblasts and some fat cells, and mast cell and macrophages widely separated by elastic and collagen fibers. It is found in almost every part of the body, providing elasticity and tensile strength. It connects and supports other tissues, for example, under the skin, between the muscles, supporting blood vessels and nerves, in the alimentary tract or alimentary canal, then in a gland supporting secretory cells. Then adipose tissue. Adipose tissue consists of fat cells, त्यालाच आपण काय म्हणतो? Adipocytes, containing large fat globules in the matrix of areolar tissue. There are two types, white and brown. किती आहे adipose tissue? White and brown. White adipose tissue, this makes up to 20 to 25% of body weight in a well-nourished adult. The amount of adipose tissue is an individual is determined by the balance between the energy intake and expenditure. It is found supporting the kidneys and the eyes. between muscle fibers and under the skin, where it act as the thermal insulator. काय करतं? It act as a thermal insulator. व्हाईट आणि ब्राऊन ॲडिपोस. Then brown adipose tissue, this is present in the newborn. कुठं असतं? हा न्यूबॉर्न मध्ये जास्त असतं. It has a more extensive capillary network than the white adipose tissue. When brown tissue is metabolized, it produces less energy and considerably more heat than the other fat, contributing to the maintenance of body temperature. In adult, it is present in only a small amount. Adult मध्ये किती असतो? It is present in only small amounts. Then dense connective tissue, fibrous connective tissue. This tissue is made up of mainly of closely packed bundles of collagens, fibrous with the very little matrix. Then fibrocytes, old and inactive fibroblasts, are few in number and are found lying in a rows between the bundles of fibers. Then fibrous tissue is found forming the ligaments which bind bones together. As an outer protective covering for bone is called as a periosteum. As an outer protective covering of some organ, kidney, lymph node, and the brain. Then forming muscle sheaths called as the muscle fascia, which extended beyond the muscle to become the tendon, and that attach the muscle to bones. Then elastic tissue is capable of unconsiderable extension of recoil. There are few cells, and the matrix consists mainly of masses of elastic fibers secreted by fibroblasts. It is found in organ where alteration of shape is required. Example याच्यामध्ये बघा, in large blood vessel walls, then the epiglottis and the outer ears. Last is the blood. Blood is the this is the fluid connective tissue. Blood is the type of fluid connective tissue. The lymphoid tissue. This tissue has a semi-solid matrix with the fine branching reticulin fiber. It contains WBC, white blood cells, in that monocytes and lymphocytes. They are found in a blood and in a lymphoid tissue in the lymph node, spleen, palatine and pharyngeal tonsils, then vermiform appendix, solitary and aggregated nodes in the small intestines, then wall of the large intestine. And last is a cartilage. Cartilage is a much firmer tissue than any of the other connective tissue. The cells are called as a chondrocytes. सेलला काय म्हणतो आपण? Chondrocytes are less numbers. They are embedded in the matrix reinforced by the collagen and elastic fiber. There are three types: hyaline cartilage, fibrocartilage आणि elastic fibrocartilage. कार्टिलेजचे किती टाइप्स आहेत? हायलाइन कार्टिलेज, फायब्रोकार्टिलेज आणि इलास्टिक फायब्रोकार्टिलेज. हायलाइन कार्टिलेज बघा, हायलाइन कार्टिलेज appear as a smooth bluish white tissue. The chondrocytes are in a small groups within the cell nest and the matrix is solid and smooth. Hyaline cartilage is found on the surface of part of the bone that form a joints, then forming the costal cartilage which attach the ribs to the sternum and forming part of the larynx, trachea and bronchi. Hyaline cartilage कुठं कुठं असतं? On the surface of the parts of the bone that form a joint, then forming the costal cartilage, then which attach to the rib to the sternum, then forming part of the larynx, trachea and bronchi. Then fibrocartilage, this consists of dense masses of white collagen fiber in a matrix similar to that of hyaline cartilage with the cells widely dispersed. It is tough, slightly flexible tissue found as pad between the bodies of the vertebrae. कुठं असतं? Fibrocartilage as a pad between the bodies of the vertebrae called as the intervertebral disc. जे दोन पाठीचे मणके जे असतात त्या दोन मणक्यामध्ये जो एक डिस्क असते intervertebral disc त्याच्यामध्ये कोणतं असतं? फायब्रो कार्टिलेज. Between the articulating surface of the bones of the knee joint called as the semilunar cartilages. Next is the on the form of the bony sockets of the hip and shoulder joints deep in the cavities without restricting movement. Then as a ligament joining bones. Then elastic cartilage. This is flexible tissue consists of yellow elastic fiber lying in a solid matrix. The cells lies between the fibers. It form the pinna or lobe of ear. बघा आपल्या कानाचा पिन्ना किंवा जे लोब असतं खालचं लोब, ज्याच्यामध्ये आपण जे इयर रिंग्स वगैरे घालतो आहे ना, म्हणजे कानात बाळी वगैरे घालतो, याला हे कशापासून बनले? इलॅस्टिक कार्टिलेज. The epiglottis and part of the tunica media of blood vessels walls is also made up of a elastic cartilage. Then bone. Bone is a connective tissue with the cells of osteocytes. Osteocytes are the mature cells of the bone, surrounded by a matrix of collagen fiber that is strengthened by the inorganic salts, especially calcium and phosphate. This provides bones with their characteristic strength and rigidity. Bones also has a considerable capacity for growth in the first 2 decades of life and for regeneration throughout life. Two types of bone can be identified by the neck type, that's the compact bone, solid or dense appearance. बघा जे लॉंग बोन असतात त्यामध्ये कम्पॅक्ट बोन असतात, त्याला आपण शाफ्ट म्हणतो. काय? कम्पॅक्ट बोन किंवा शाफ्ट. आणि दुसरे असतात कॅन्सलस और स्पॉन्जी बोन, स्पॉन्जी और फाईन हनीकॉम अपीअरन्स. जे शॉर्ट बोन असतात बघा, ते शॉर्ट बोनमध्ये शाफ्ट नसतं, म्हणजे जे कॉम्पॅक्ट बोनचा पोर्शन जो असतो शाफ्ट म्हणतो आपण त्याला. आपण डिटेलमध्ये मस्क्युलोस्केलेटल सिस्टममध्ये शिकू. तर ते स्पॉन्जी बोनमध्ये शाफ्ट नसतो. टेन मसल, स्केलेटल मसल, स्मूथ मसल आणि कार्डियक मसल्स. Muscle tissue. There are 3 types of muscle tissue which consist of specialized contractile cells: skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, cardiac muscle. Skeletal muscle tissue, this may be described as a skeletal, striated, strip or voluntary muscle. कसं आहे? व्हॉलंटरी म्हणजे इट्स इन कंट्रोल अवर विल, म्हणजे आपल्या इच्छेनुसार आपण याची मुवमेंट करू शकतो. व्हॉलंटरी मसल. इट इज कॉल्ड एज अ व्हॉलंटरी बिकॉज कॉन्ट्रॅक्शन इज अंडर कॉन्शियस कंट्रोल, म्हणजे कॉन्ट्रॅक्शन रिलॅक्सेशन जे प्रोसेस आहे याची मुवमेंट हे आपण आपल्या अंडर कॉन्शियस आपल्या कंट्रोलमध्ये आहे. स्मूथ मसल्स, व्हिसरल मसल टिश्यू. स्मूथ मसल्स मे ऑल्सो बी डिस्क्राइब एज अ नॉन स्ट्रायटेड. कसे ते? नॉन स्ट्रायटेड और इनव्हॉलंटरी. इनव्हॉलंटरी, व्हॉलंटरी आहेत का? नाही, इनव्हॉलंटरी. इट इज नॉट अंडर कॉन्शियस कंट्रोल, म्हणजे आपल्या कॉन्शियस कंट्रोलमध्ये आहेत का? नाही. इट इज फाउंड इन द वॉल्स ऑफ द हॉलो ऑर्गन. Then regulating the diameter of blood vessel and part of the respiratory tract. Then propelling contents of the ureters, duct of glands and alimentary tract. Then expelling contents of the urinary bladder and uterus. ह्या कशा मसल्स आहेत? इनव्हॉलंटरी आहेत, म्हणजे याची मुवमेंट जी आपल्या अंडर और व्हील नाही आहेत, म्हणजे आपल्या इच्छेप्रमाणे होत नाही. Next, the cardiac muscle tissue. This type of muscle tissue is found exclusively in the walls of the heart. It is not under conscious control, but when viewed under a microscope, cross strips characteristic of voluntary muscle can be seen. Then nervous tissue. Two types of tissue are found in the nervous system. Excitable cells. These are called as the neurons, and they initiate, receive, conduct, and transmit information. Others are non-excitable cells. This support the neurons. The cells of connective tissue. Connective tissue, excluding blood, is found in all organs supporting the specialized tissue. The different types of cells involved include fibroblasts, fat cells, macrophages, leukocytes, and mast cells. Fibroblasts are large flat cells with irregular processes. They produce collagen and elastic fibers and a matrix or extracellular material. Then fat cells, also known as the adipocytes. These cells occur singly or in a group in many types of connective tissue and are especially abundant in a adipose tissue. Then macrophages, these are irregular shaped cells with granules in the cytoplasm. Some are fixed, that is attached to the connective tissue fibers, and other are motile. They are an important part of the body defense mechanism as they are actively phagocytic and engulfing and digesting cell debris, bacteria and other foreign bodies. Then leukocytes. Leukocytes are the white blood cells are normally found in a small numbers in healthy connective tissue, but migrate in significant numbers during infection when they play an important part in a tissue defense. Lymphocytes synthesize and secrete lymphocytes synthesize and secrete specific antibodies into the blood in the presence of foreign material such as the microbes. Then mast cells. These cells are similar to basophil leukocytes, They are found in a loose connective tissue and under the fibrous capsule of some organs, example liver, spleen, and in a considerable numbers around blood vessel. कुठं around blood vessels. Then membranes बघू. Membranes are sheets of epithelial tissue and their supporting connective tissue that cover or line internal structure or cavities. The main membranes are mucus, serous, synovial. Mucous membrane बघा. This is the moist lining of the alimentary tract, respiratory tract आणि genitourinary tract and is sometimes referred as the mucosa. Mucous membrane काय moist for moistening lining of alimentary tract, respiratory tract आणि genitourinary tract and sometimes referred as the mucosa. Then serous membrane of serosa secretes serous watery fluid. They consist of double layer of loose areolar connective tissue lined by simple squamous epithelium. These are three sites where serous membranes are found. Serous membrane कुठं कुठं found होतं बघा. The pleura म्हणजे lungs, the pleura lining the thoracic cavity and surrounding the lungs. Next is the pericardium lining the pericardial cavity and the surrounding the heart. Then peritoneum lining the abdominal cavity and surrounding the abdominal organ. Third membrane is the synovial membrane. This membrane is found lining the joint cavities and surrounding tendons, which could be injured by rubbing against bone. Example over the wrist joint. Next, last portion is the glands. Glands are group of epithelial cell which produce specialized secretion. Glands that discharge their secretion on the epithelial surface of an organ either directly or through a duct are called as exocrine glands. आता बघा, glands are divided into two types, exocrine gland and endocrine glands. Maintain contact with the exocrine gland, maintain contact with the body surface by a duct epithelial tube that directs secretion to the surface. Exocrine glands are the glands having duct. याचं सिक्रेशन हे duct through secrete करतात. Endocrine glands are the ductless gland. They are directly secrete their hormones into the bloodstream. त्याचं हार्मोन डायरेक्ट कुठं सिक्रेट होतं, ब्लड मध्ये. Then in applied anatomy, disorder of cell and tissues, neoplasm or tumors. A tumor or neoplasm, literally meaning new growth, is a mass of tissue that grows faster than the normal in an uncoordinated manner and continues to grow after the initial stimulus has ceased. Tumors are classified as a benign or malignant. Benign म्हणजे नॉन कॅन्सरस आणि malignant म्हणजे कॅन्सरस. Although a clear distinction is not always possible. Causes of neoplasm बघा, this is chemical carcinogens, aniline dyes, arsenic compounds, asbestos, benzene derivatives, cigarette smoking, nickel compounds, some fuel oils, and vinyl chlorides. Then radiation carcinogens, then oncogenic viruses, then host factor, race, diet, age, then irritated factors, effect of tumors, pressure effect, both benign and malignant tumors may cause pressure damage to adjacent structures. Then hormonal effect, tumors of endocrine glands may secrete hormones, producing the effect of hypersecretion. The extent of cell dysplasia is an important factor. Then cachexia. This is the severe weight loss accompanied by progressive weakness, loss of appetite, wasting, and anemia that is usually associated with the advanced cancer. In causes of death in a malignant disease, infection, organ failure, carcinomatosis, then hemorrhage. Thank you. इथे आपला फर्स्ट ॲनाटॉमी अँड फिजिओलॉजी इंट्रोडक्टरी चॅप्टर एंड झालेला आहे. थँक्यू.